Welcome in. We are so glad you're joining us today because we've got a really fascinating stack of notes pulled together just for you. We're doing a custom deep dive into the Wikipedia biography of a man named Mel Haber.
Yes, and I'm very excited to get into this one.
Right. And right off the bat, I want to establish that it's an absolute masterclass in entrepreneurship, cultural trend spotting, and just pure reinvention.
Absolutely. It's a wildly unpredictable trajectory.
Totally. We are tracing the journey of a guy who literally started out selling peanuts to crowds at Ebbets Field and somehow, through just sheer adaptability, ends up hosting Frank Sinatra's pre-wedding party.
Which is quite the leap.
It's massive. And the secret ingredient to that entire wild ride is a concept he called working smart.
It really is an incredible document to dissect because, this isn't just a biographical timeline of one man's life.
Right.
It's a vivid, almost kaleidoscopic lens through which we can view 20th century American consumerism. By looking at Haber's career, we are essentially tracking the evolution of the American economy.
Like a microcosm of the whole country.
Exactly. From those bizarre mid-century youth fads right up to the golden age of Hollywood hideaways.
Okay, let's unpack this from the very beginning. Mel Haber was born in Brooklyn, New York in 1936.
Classic Depression-era Brooklyn roots.
Yeah, and he was the youngest of 4 children and the only boy. His father, Louis, was a garment district salesman. But this standard mid-century upbringing just shatters completely when Mel is just 12 years old.
A pivotal, tragic moment.
Right. His father dies of a heart attack at the age of 52. And literally overnight, this 12-year-old boy becomes the sole breadwinner for his entire family.
It's an unimaginable amount of pressure to place on a child.
I can't even fathom it.
I mean, he isn't just getting a part-time job to buy comic books or go to the movies. He is literally keeping a roof over his family's head.
Yeah, and the sheer volume of work he takes on to do that is staggering. He's delivering groceries. He's at Ebbets Field, navigating these massive, chaotic baseball crowds just to sell peanuts and beer.
Which is grueling work on its own.
Oh, for sure. And then during the summers, he heads up to the Catskills to work as a busboy in these massive, incredibly fast-paced resort dining rooms.
And that Catskills experience is where we find our first and arguably most important major takeaway.
The core philosophy.
Right. While he's rushing around those dining rooms, balancing heavy trays, dodging waiters, and clearing tables for hundreds of guests, he develops this personal philosophy. He called it motion efficiency.
Which he later referred to as simply working smart.
Exactly. Because when you are a 12-year-old carrying the financial weight of an entire family, you simply cannot afford to waste a single ounce of physical energy.
Or a single minute of time.
Exactly. Motion efficiency meant maximizing his output while minimizing the physical toll. Every single step he took had a purpose.
No wasted movement.
None. And that exact same skill, that ability to optimize his environment and his effort, is the precise operational foundation that later allowed him to run 6 different complex restaurant and club venues simultaneously without burning out.
It makes complete sense. I mean, if you can efficiently navigate a crowded 1940s resort dining room during the dinner rush, you can probably navigate anything.
It's the ultimate training ground.
So he graduates high school, and in the fall of 1954, he enrolls in the Fashion Institute of Technology, FIT, in Manhattan.
But not for long.
No, his college career is remarkably short-lived. 2 months in, he gets a call from a businessman named Artie Schifrin, offering him a job at Walford Industries for $85 a week.
Which was decent money back then.
Very decent. So Hayward drops out immediately, takes the money, and steps into what becomes a massive cultural phenomenon.
The timing of that job offer really is everything, because in December of 1954, the ABC television network airs a show called Davy Crockett, Indian Fighter.
Starring Fess Parker.
Right, and Parker wears this signature coonskin cap.
It was an absolute overnight youth craze.
Unprecedented for television at the time.
Yeah, if you think about modern viral fads like when fidget spinners or certain TikTok products suddenly sell out everywhere in a matter of days, this was the 1950s equivalent. But on a massive physical manufacturing scale.
What's fascinating here is the sheer speed of the boom and bust cycle.
It was so fast.
Walford Industries, where Haber had just started, saw this multi-million-dollar bandwagon and jumped right on it. They pivoted to producing coonskin items as fast as their machines could run.
They went all in.
They did. but it's a perfect micro-study of supply chain economics. We have the specific numbers from the source, and they paint a brutal picture of what happens when demand completely outstrips supply.
The raw materials just vanished, didn't they?
Completely. The price of raccoon tails surged from 25 cents a piece all the way up to $5 a pound by May of 1955.
Wow.
The raw materials became so astronomically expensive that the margins just evaporated. The bubble burst, the craze ended, and the whole operation crashed.
Which leaves Mel Haber, at 19 years old, out of work for the first time since he was a child.
A harsh lesson in trend chasing.
Definitely. So he regroups, obviously. He tries selling shoes, he tries selling stocks, but he's really just treading water until Walford Industries calls him back.
Because they had a new plan.
Right. They aren't doing coonskin caps anymore. They're pivoting to automotive novelties, and they want Haber to help run the operation.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the macro context of this pivot is crucial for understanding American consumer culture.
Set the scene for us.
This is the post-World War II economic boom. By the late 50s, the country is selling approximately 10 million cars annually. But more importantly, you have the rise of the baby boomer teenager.
Right. The car is no longer just a utilitarian way to get to work. For a teenager, the car is their living room.
It's their social currency.
Precisely. Teenagers were practically living in their vehicles. And Walford Industries realized that these kids wanted to customize these spaces.
And they leaned into it heavily.
Between 1961 and 1968, they produced an astonishing 750 different novelty items to help teenagers express their identities.
And we are talking about the absolute quintessential classics of mid-century car culture here.
Oh, the stuff you see in every period movie. They were making the hula dolls that danced in your rear window, dashboard religious statues,
The classics.
the iconic fuzzy dice hanging from the rearview mirror, tiger tails to hang on the gas tank. It's brilliant because it's entirely frivolous, but it's exactly what the market wanted.
It was pure identity signaling.
Yeah, and their biggest hit was something called amber lens dye, which sold over 1 million units.
They were monetizing teenage self-expression at an unprecedented scale, and it paid off massively. In 1968, a company called Automatic Radio swooped in and bought Walford for $3 million.
Which means Haber, who held a 10% stake, walks away with a $300,000 windfall.
A fortune at the time.
Huge. He's young, he's incredibly wealthy, he has a large house in Long Island, and he drives a Rolls-Royce. But this is the exact point in the story where that linear trajectory completely derails.
It really is a cautionary tale about the illusion of generalized business genius.
What do you mean by that?
Well, Haber had achieved massive success in a very specific, trend-driven niche. But he takes his 300 grand and starts indiscriminately investing it into a string of entirely unrelated side businesses.
The list is almost comically disconnected. He launches a boiler cleaning business, a front-end wheel alignment franchise.
He tries an import business.
Right. And then he gets into things that are highly technical, like vacuum forming and factoring medical centers.
And those last two are particularly notorious for eating up capital if you don't know the industry inside and out.
Just to clarify for you listening, vacuum forming is a manufacturing process where you heat a sheet of plastic and stretch it over a mold. It's how they make things like plastic blister packaging.
Right.
And factoring medical centers is a financial service where a company buys a medical clinic's unpaid invoices at a discount to give the clinic quick cash.
Neither of which have absolutely anything to do with selling fuzzy dice to teenagers.
Nothing at all. And predictably, every single one of these ventures was a total failure.
He bled capital.
Yeah, he had to shut them all down. And the psychological toll of that has to be immense. You go from the high of a multi-million-dollar buyout to watching your money evaporate in boiler cleaning schemes.
It's humbling, to say the least.
The source material describes the aftermath as a textbook midlife crisis. And he does something incredibly drastic. He doesn't just downsize, he burns the ships.
It's a complete reset.
Yeah. He trades his Rolls-Royce for a used Fiat. He leaves his Long Island house behind, moves clear across the country to Los Angeles, and rents a furnished apartment in Marina del Rey.
He essentially stripped away all the physical trappings of his previous success, which had become so entangled with all his recent devastating failures. He was looking for a blank slate.
Here's where it gets really interesting. It's 1975. He's out in California driving this used Fiat, and a friend invites him to take a trip out to Palm Springs.
A fateful trip.
Very. While he's wandering around, he comes across a property at 200 Ramon Road called the Ingleside Inn. At this point, it's suffering badly from absentee ownership.
It's dilapidated.
very rundown. But it has this unbelievable ghost town glamour to it.
The history of that estate is extraordinary. It was built back in 1925 by the widow of the Piercero motorcar manufacturer.
Oh, wow.
But its real legacy began a decade later when a Palm Springs councilwoman named Ruth Hardy bought it and transformed it into a 20-room hotel.
The hotel doesn't really do it justice.
No, Hardy ran it for 30 years as an aggressively exclusive, invite-only private club. The contrast of the people who stayed there is fascinating. You had your classic Hollywood royalty, of course.
Like Elizabeth Taylor and Greta Garbo.
Yes, but you also had these bizarre cultural intersections.
Right, like you'd have Salvador Dali, the eccentric surrealist painter, staying at the same highly exclusive resort as JCPenney, the incredibly conservative department store magnate.
It's a wild mix.
Just painting that picture in your head, these vastly different titans of culture and industry hiding out in the desert under the strict curation of Ruth Hardy.
But Hardy passed away in 1965, and without her enforcing that exclusivity, the magic faded. By the time Haber walks onto the property 10 years later, it's a shadow of its former self.
Now, let's look at this objectively from Haber's perspective. He has just failed out of half a dozen businesses.
Spectacularly.
Spectacularly. He knows automotive novelties.
Yeah.
He absolutely does not know high-end luxury hospitality. And yet, he looks at this faded, rundown estate and makes a spontaneous $300,000 handshake deal to buy the entire property.
It is an almost incomprehensibly reckless move on paper.
On April 15, 1975, he officially owns it. But this is where we see that childhood motion efficiency roar back to life.
The Catskills busboy returns.
Exactly. He doesn't hesitate or overthink. He shuts the inn down for the summer, pours $500,000 into a rapid, highly focused restoration, and revitalizes the property, including adding a restaurant he names Melvin's.
And he moves incredibly fast.
By September 15th of that same year, the Ingleside Inn reopens.
And he somehow manages to instantly recapture the exact lightning in a bottle that Ruth Hardy had commanded decades earlier.
The turnaround is stunning. The inn immediately becomes a massive magnet for a brand new era of Hollywood's elite. You've got stars from Marlon Brando to John Travolta walking through the doors.
But there was one event that really sealed the deal.
Oh yeah. The moment that permanently cemented the inn's legendary status happened just a few months later, in July of 1976. Frank Sinatra and Barbara Marx held their pre-wedding party at Melvin's.
In the ecosystem of 1970s celebrity culture, there's no higher endorsement.
None.
Once Frank Sinatra chooses your venue for something that intimate and high profile, your reputation is bulletproof.
You're set for life.
The inn was eventually featured on Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous, hailed as one of the world's premier dining venues.
He went from a furnished apartment and a used Fiat to hosting Sinatra in barely a year.
It's dizzying.
But Haber was fundamentally a trend spotter. He wasn't going to just sit still. By 1979, the cultural wave was disco, and Haber decides to build the biggest surfboard he can find.
He opens a venue called Cecil's on October 1st, 1979, and this was not a modest undertaking.
Not at all. Cecil's was a 9,000-square-foot Chinese restaurant and discotheque.
A strange combination, but it worked.
It cost $1.2 million to build in 1979 dollars. The sheer extravagance of an expansive Chinese restaurant that seamlessly morphs into a pulsating disco that rivaled Studio 54. It was the undisputed epicenter of Palm Springs nightlife.
And he didn't stop there.
Nope. He followed that up by opening 2 more dining ventures in the early 80s. Saturdays, which was modeled after the TGI Fridays concept, and Doubles, located inside the famed tennis club. At his peak, Haber was the second largest employer in all of Palm Springs, with 200 people on his payroll.
This raises an important question about how an entrepreneur navigates shifting cultural tides. Pop culture historians widely consider disco to have died right around 1980.
The famous disco backlash.
Right. But Haber's motion efficiency applied to his management style, too. He kept Cecil's highly profitable for years after the trend supposedly died. But crucially, he knew exactly when to get off the ride.
That timing is everything.
In 1985, sensing the era was truly over, he sold Cecil's, Doubles, and Saturdays to local businessmen, cashing out cleanly.
He steps away from the massive club expansions. But the city of Palm Springs wasn't quite ready to let him retire from the nightlife scene. Fast forward to January 1994.
The comeback attempt.
The public has been clamoring for his return, and he obliges by opening Touche, a $1.3 million Moroccan-themed bar, nightclub, and restaurant.
The opening night was everything you'd expect from a Mel Haber production. Over 500 people, Celebrities everywhere. They even got a plug from Robin Leach on television.
But once the opening night confetti was swept away, a very stark, very troubling pattern emerged. On the weekends, Touche was absolutely packed. But midweek, it was a ghost town, zero business.
This is where Haber's deep understanding of sociology comes into play. A stubborn owner might have just dumped more money into advertising, trying to force people through the doors on a Tuesday.
Trying to make the market do what they want.
Exactly. But Haber stepped back and analyzed the broader cultural landscape. The 1990s were not the 1970s. The culture had shifted from the wild, anything-goes disco era to a much more corporate, health-conscious decade.
Right. People actually had to show up to the office on a Thursday morning now. Plus, the media was heavily driving a much broader public awareness regarding alcohol and substance abuse.
Exactly. The era of the casual midweek blowout was dead. And instead of fighting a losing battle against a permanent cultural shift, Haber applied that classic motion efficiency once again.
He cut his losses.
In 1996, he sold Touche for $250,000. He stepped away from the nightclub scene for good and focused his energy on the stable, thriving entities he still owned, the Ingleside Inn and Melvin's.
It takes a lot of discipline to walk away like that, without letting ego get in the way. But what is truly inspiring is what he did with all the time and energy he got back.
The philanthropy chapter.
Yes, he poured it into philanthropy. Going all the way back to 1985, around the time he sold off his first wave of clubs, he got deeply involved with the Angel View Crippled Children's Foundation.
An amazing organization.
This was an organization that originally used local hot springs to rehabilitate children with polio, but had expanded to help kids with a wide range of physical challenges.
And he didn't just lend his name to a letterhead. He joined the board, and by 1993, he was the president of the foundation. Under his leadership, they expanded their footprint significantly, opening their 17th home in 2002, which was named the Mel Haber House in his honor.
Even after stepping down as president of Angel View, he kept going. In 2014, he joined the board of operations Safe House.
That's a tough front line to be on.
It is. This is an organization actively fighting child trafficking and youth homelessness in the Coachella Valley.
Yeah.
They provide emergency shelter for runaway and abandoned children.
It's incredibly vital work. Through his efforts there, they were able to assist more than 800 children a year, giving them a secure haven and a chance to rebuild their lives.
Talk about an impact.
It's a profound application of his relentless drive, taking the organizational skills he learned running multi-million-dollar venues and using them to protect vulnerable youth.
And he somehow found the time to become an author, too. He wrote bedtime stories of the Ingleside Inn, which actually featured a dedication by Arnold Schwarzenegger, and later co-authored Palm Springs a la carte.
And the city honored him for all of this, didn't they?
They absolutely recognized his impact. On his 60th birthday in 1996, he received a Golden Palm Star, and the city officially designated the Ingleside Inn as a historic site.
A well-deserved legacy.
So what does this all mean? When you look at this incredible stack of notes, you see a journey that completely defies the conventional rules of business.
In every possible way.
You have a 12-year-old boy in Brooklyn thrust into the role of sole provider who learns the vital art of motion efficiency while clearing tables in the Catskills. And he takes that philosophy and uses it to ride the wildest economic and cultural waves of the 20th century.
From coonskin caps to disco.
Right. He navigated the boom and bust of the Davy Crockett craze, he monetized the teenage car culture of the 60s, and he orchestrated the glamorous peak of 1970s Hollywood nightlife. But most importantly, he channeled all of that hard-won success into a legacy of profound community service.
It is a remarkable, deeply unconventional trajectory. But for you, the listener, I think there is a highly provocative thought to take away from this analysis.
Lay it at us.
Consider the ultimate turning point of Haber's life. His greatest, most lasting success, the Ingleside Inn, did not come from careful strategic planning. It came immediately after a string of devastating failures.
When he was at his lowest.
It happened during a midlife crisis where he had surrendered a Rolls-Royce for a used Fiat. He walked onto a dilapidated property knowing absolutely nothing about the hospitality industry and made a $300,000 handshake deal based purely on instinct.
Pure gut feeling.
Right. It makes you wonder, in our modern world where we are so hyper-obsessed with linear career paths, perfectly optimized resumes, and rigidly plotted 5-year plans. Wait. Is our modern obsession with playing it safe actually cutting us off from our own spontaneous, life-changing handshake deals?
That is a phenomenal question to end on. Are we planning so rigidly that we forget to leave room for the leap? Thank you so much for joining us on this custom deep dive today. We really hope you enjoyed navigating this incredible life story as much as we did. We'll leave you with that final thought to mull over as you go about your day. Catch you next time.